and welcome back to Talk Wordy, my hub for all of the words that I read, write, or otherwise want to yap about. Today, I am going to give you the inside scoop of how I got my literary agent. I know I've had a lot of people ask, and I've given them like a basic outline of I queried for this long and I met her this month and the rest is history. But I've recently been seeing a lot of writers being more open to telling like all the details and, giving the timestamps and everything. So I thought I would, be transparent and do that myself. Now, look, I will say this episode is the epitome of this could have been an email because a lot of ways that people are talking about this sort of thing is they're going on Substack and writing, or it's part of their newsletter posts or whatever, which I will make a Substack post, but I'm a yapper to my core. So I'm going to talk it out first. Also because I want to verbally acknowledge like how blessed I am that this actually happened for me. This is a years long dream, which I'll unpack more. But the fact that it came true this year for me, I just want to also like remind myself as much as y'all that like it is possible. I used to think it was this impossible, unattainable thing. And when it happened to me, I was like, oh, this could happen to anybody because it somehow happened to me. So let's get into it. All right. So a little bit about me in terms of like how much querying meant to me, or at least pursuing traditional publishing, how much that meant to me was nearly every birthday candle wish, nearly all of my 11/11 wishes, every superstitious, like, oh, this is a good omen. Let's, manifest, make a wish. And absolutely like every first New Year's resolution that I would pin for myself for the next year, was about finding an agent. And I think that continued for like, I would say anywhere between like 5 and 8 years. It was all I thought about from like age 18 to 24. So that's a big jump. So what changed? I'm going to kind of gloss over this first part because the time I spent in the query trenches this time around was successful, but there were 2 other times that I went in and I did not survive. The other 2 times that I went in were for fantasy, romance, dystopian books. I still love the genre, and obviously like one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on and ever written that I haven't published yet and I do want to publish someday. I love the genres, so like I do want to get back to it, but at the time, I just don't think my voice was perfectly ironed out for the genre. So it just wasn't my time. So in 2023, 2024, when I first got the idea for this contemporary rom-com, and I wrote it faster than I had written any other book at that time, I knew that it was worth throwing into the trenches and seeing what could happen. And, for reference, by this point, I had already indie published 2 books. I did end up publishing fantasy, romance, romantasy, not dystopian. I self-published those 2 books. You can read them now. It's The Fall of Jericho and The Rise of Daragon. I always hate self-plugging myself, but those books exist. I love them. And I'm also very cognizant of the fact that those books were, for me, meant to be indie published, at least at first. Now, if my agent wants to do something cool with it in the traditional sphere, knock yourself out if you're watching this. But at the time when I first was putting pen to paper, it made more sense that that universe was something that I built alone. I learned the indie self-publishing world and figured everything out myself. I think it really built my character as an author, and I don't regret it for a second. So again, all that to say, by the time that I went back into the query trenches for a 3rd time with this new book and brand new genre for me, I had already had 2 books under my belt. So I knew that if this book didn't last in the query trenches, as heartbroken as I would be okay because I would just go and indie publish it. So I wrote draft 1 between May of 2024 until early July. I wrote it in 2 months, maybe a month and a half. I was just straight gas, pedal to the metal to the finish line of this first draft, which I cannot say about the book I'm writing currently, but that's another conversation for another day. I did self-edits in maybe 8 days, maybe a week. I was just gripped onto this book. I could not take a break from it. I loved it more than life itself. It got me out of a very hard time. And then after that, for the rest of the month of July, I found 10 wonderful beta readers. I love all of you if you are listening to this. They helped me go over it. They read the whole thing and they left really detailed notes, okay? I told them, I was like, listen, I can take criticism, be blunt, do not apologize. And if you see anything, like the tiniest infraction that pulls you out of the story, write it down, let me know. Any advice they gave me, I was like, yes, approve, accept, change, amazing. They were wonderful. And then I gave it one last straight read through. Like I downloaded it as a PDF so I couldn't edit on top of it. And I said, you know what? This looks fabulous. Let's query. Let's do it. So my first query went out on July 31st of 2024. Fun fact, that first query did not get a response until after I had signed with my agent, and it was a form response or a form rejection. So, querying's weird. So, first query goes out last day of July. Great. I don't receive my first request, partial, full, anything. It was a partial. My first request was a partial. And that didn't come until November 14th. Okay? End of July to November 14th. Let's count together. July. So August, September, October. 3.5 months of just straight no's, ghosting, questioning my self-worth. It's like the 5 stages of grief. That first initial stage being, am I worth it? Am I actually talented? Because nobody seems to think so. Push past it. Please just push past it. Also, don't stew in it because that's where I lived. That's the home I made for myself. I don't ever want to go back there. It was awful. 0 out of 10 recommend. 3.5 months, I got a partial request, and you would have thought I won the lottery. I literally had a meltdown dance party, tears streaming down my face in the work bathroom. Fun fact, every single querying milestone I ever had, I found out at work. Because I would check my writer email before I would even check my work email every day. And if there was a rejection waiting for me, the whole day was shot. And I needed to not do that. I needed like parental controls on my emails. But the first partial request came in and I was like, holy crap, this could be it. Like a sane person when they're in the query trenches, I definitely like FBI level stalked this person. Okay. I was like, oh, we could be such a great fit. Oh, she looks so wonderful. We could be best friends. Because I had never gotten this far in the query trenches or the query stage. Okay. This was my first request ever out of all the times that I have done it. And so like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. All my work was paying off. And then I had to keep waiting. And I kept getting more rejections. And it still stung, but at least I had a partial request. I did a lot of Googling. I practically meditated on Query Tracker, the pro version. Oh my gosh, that program was addicting. The day that I got to like unsubscribe from Query Tracker Premium, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. It was an out-of-body experience. But yeah, we kept waiting, and I knew that no agents would really be operating during Christmas or December. I was waiting on a couple of agents that I was dying to query, but they hadn't opened in months and or years. And so I did a lot of like new agent scouting for my next batch because I didn't query everybody all at once. I wanted it, staggered. And so once enough people rejected, I was like, oh, I can fill these gaps in with other agents. And I did a lot of, research I added to my spreadsheet. Oh, the Excel spreadsheet. Woo! Ooh, I just had war flashbacks. My color-coded Excel spreadsheet. It looks like a medical chart, okay? It's insane. I made my list and checked it twice. It's delirium hours, you guys. It's delirium hours. Basically, 2025 starts, okay? And I said, oh, it's a new year. It's a new me. But for the first time in all of these years that I made these New Year's resolutions of, I'm going to get an agent. I'm going to get an agent. I finally decided, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm not going to make it a goal because every time I make it a goal, I jinx myself. So that's not a goal. My goal is to stay level-headed and be proud of my work. That is it. That is the baseline that I gave myself. Reverse psychology. Okay, so mind you, if you are an author, if you've been in the query trenches, you know that like most agents are still on holiday and they open their query inboxes again like on the 6th or the 7th or around the 1st or 2nd full week of January. I was ready to pitch these agents like I had my finger on the nuclear war button. I was sat. I was not focusing on anything else. I had my list. I was ready to roll. I pitch so many people. And around that time, I discovered Blue Sky. Blue Sky, at the time, it was like, oh, Twitter sucks, or X. I'm not calling it X. You can get over it. Twitter sucks, and so everybody's migrating to Blue Sky, and Blue Sky felt very friendly at the time. So I was like, okay, bet. A lot of the literary agent, publisher, editor crowd was moving over there. But I actually found my now agent on Blue Sky and Twitter because I saw her profile on Blue Sky under a hashtag, and then if you're wondering, it was the hashtag MSWL, manuscript wish list. MSWL saves lives. If you need querying advice, that's my big one. Stalk the heck out of MSWL. I found her on Blue Sky, and then I went and jumped over to see if she had anything on Twitter. It was the same thing. I was like, okay. So I actually pitched my agent on January 6th. In my next batch, I was like, you know what? Truth be told, I think her pitch was kind of just like a Hail Mary. I expected her to be a no because she was very particular on rom-coms. I was like, ugh, slim chance. But she mentioned nerds. And if you know anything about my book, it is for the nerds. I was like, you know what? I miss 100% of the shots that I don't take, and I'm not going to self-reject. I would rather have the no from somebody else than tell myself no when it could have been a yes. You just never know. Hail Mary, threw it out there. She was my first full request, and that came in on January 21st. So 2 weeks in a day or something. I'm bad at math. This is why I write books, because I'm bad at math. I was like, oh, and you're asking for the full book? Send immediately. Here you go. Take it all. Here, you can have it. And then my second batch was coming back. I was getting more personalized feedback, even if it was a rejection. I was like, okay, I can rock with this because at least I know what I can look for. Either if everybody rejects me and I can fix it before my third pass of submissions, or I could fix it with my agent, whichever agent comes along. And then we got a second full request at the end of February. And I was like, oh, we are cooking with peanut oil now. Let's freaking go. I was like, although I will say I was studying up on like people's query testimonies, and they were like, you guys, I've had 6 full requests and 5 of them were no's. And I'm just hoping that this other one is the yes, because 6 fulls and 6 no's is like breaking my spirit. And I was like, you are stronger than me. You are stronger than me. Also, can I give you a hug? I could not imagine the pain. And so then I had those 2 fulls and a partial, and I was like, crap, every single one of them is going to reject me. And the minute I had that thought, the partial request backed out and rejected. And it stung a little bit. It stung, but like, it's necessary, okay? But I was like, crap, at least I still have the 2 fulls. And so then finally, I got my first offer of representation on March 7th. I got the email to have a call on the 6th. So, a couple days, a week or so after that second full request, my first offer came in. And I feel like I've posted the video everywhere, but I was at work. I was at my desk, bawled like a baby, cried my eyes out. I was inconsolable for the rest of the day at work when I got the email because, they're always kind of vague. They're like, can we schedule a call to talk about representation? Now, to be fair, there are times when it's just a call or like there's like mixed feelings. It's not always immediately, I want to offer you. Like, let's talk about your career. Let's talk about your vision for, XYZ. What other stuff are you writing? Whatever. In my bones, I knew that this was the offer. You could not break my stride. You could not break my spirit. No amount of work, personal life BS could get in the way of the full body joy I was experiencing those 2 days. However, I remembered the extra special part about querying that obviously I hadn't experienced because I had never gotten an offer. But that is, once you get that one yes, the power is yours. I had 18 agents to follow up with. Okay. I had the call, I had heard the offer, I had talked to her, gotten to know her, and I got to say, hey, this is so cool. Please allow me 2 weeks to come to a decision. And she was super respectful. It was great. But I had 18 agents to notify and nudge hey, I have an offer of representation. Now's the time to either ask or bow out. Love you. The request for fulls came in before the congrats, I'm going to bow out responses, which I was not expecting at all. In total, 7 of the 18 asked for fulls, and 1 of those made an offer. So I had 2 offers. In the end, that was 9 fulls, 2 offers, 1 partial, and a partridge in a pear tree. However, I will say it ultimately came down to gut instincts. Now, I knew that I could not take this decision lightly. And so, if you are not a actively believing, practicing Christian, this part is probably not going to resonate with you very much. And that's okay. I hope you still stick around for it. But when I tell you I was talking to the Lord morning, noon, and night those 2 weeks of decision making and hearing back from people, I was hoarse, just groveling, talking to him in the car, in bed, in the shower. I don't care. I could not imagine myself picking the wrong agent for me. And, when it's a 50-50 shot, oh, it chills your blood. You've got a 50-50 shot of building a sustainable, happy, joyful career, or absolutely derailing yourself for the next however long the contract period is, okay? And gridlocking yourself into no forward motion. I was talking to God like I was talking to my best friend. I was like, Lord, I am stupid. I am a stupid, mortal human being that can be swayed by the silliest of things. I need you to make it so obvious who the right agent is for me. I cannot go down the wrong path with this. I need you to guide me to the person that is meant for me, that you specifically have set me up for. And I need you to like hit me over the head with how obvious it is that it is this person. And boy, did he. I won't get into all the details, but what I loved about my agent is that first and foremost, we are very aligned with what we are both comfortable with. Knowing that I would never have to feel pressure to write something out of my comfort zone was extremely reassuring. We also had very similar communication styles, and that's a big one. If you are querying and you're looking for an agent and y'all don't mesh well on a communication level, that's a red flag. Maybe a yellow flag, but like if it's top of mind for you that like you don't text or call or, communicate as frequently as you feel you need to for that reassurance, note that, write that down. Don't just like sweep it under the rug. We also had unintended mutuals. So one of my best friends knew her from a past crossing of paths. And so when I was in that like debating period, I got to go to my friend and be like, can you tell me about this person's character? I really need to know like who they are as a person outside of agenting, because like obviously I would think that my agent would want to know a little bit about who I am outside of authoring, just to know like, are you a decent person? Do you have friends? Like, how's your family? You don't have to tell me the ins and outs, but like, do you maintain good relationships? That was super important to me and super special that I was able to have that with her. But most of all, I have to say that like the thing that really made me pick my agent over the other, I just knew that if there was one person hungrier for success and furthering a career than me, it was her. We both wanted, I tell my husband this all the time, there are moments in my writing career when I'm working so hard and seeing no profit that I am just like, I don't understand, because there's nobody on this planet that wants it more than I do. There's nobody that is working harder than I am, which obviously everybody works hard, but just it's that internal mindset of like, there's no way that somebody wants this more than I do. My agent does. We've had conversations and it's just like, yes, somebody is as like ready to work the way I am. And that's so reassuring. All that to say, I went with my agent. I love her. She is wonderful. I signed my contract with her at the end of March. I think it was like the 29th or something. And the rest was history. I made my now represented post that every querying writer like craves to make. And it was like Christmas morning for me. There's really no feeling quite like it. The day that I get a book deal, it's probably going to trump that feeling. But as of right now, thinking about the high that I was on for like the months of March and April, it was amazing. God is so good. I'm so thankful. In conclusion, the right agent really is worth the wait. You want a teammate, you want a fighter, but also somebody that instills confidence in you, because querying, like I said, it just really, if you're not prepared for it and you don't have like a really good inner circle to build you up along with either another manuscript or a hobby to distract you from the waiting and the incessant email refreshing, it's gonna like eat away at you. So, word of advice to close out the episode: do not ignore your gut instinct when it comes to an agent. I promise you, okay, you would rather wait for the right agent to come along, even if it took years. You would so much rather wait for the right agent than rush into things with the wrong agent, because they will derail your entire timeline and they will leave you with some trauma. You have to be very, very careful, because there are schmagents, I think is what they call them, like shady agents. You have to be on your guard. But if you have a gut feeling about an agent, good or bad, you need to listen to it. Your body on some level, probably a spiritual level, knows exactly what to do and who to pick. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. That was super long-winded, but this journey was wild and it's still going. Not the querying part, but obviously, like with submission and writing other books, like my journey to publishing is probably never going to be over. It's never over. Just like the quintessential yearning anthem. Yeah, you guys, that is how I got my agent story. That is my query travels, my time in the trenches. I don't ever want to go back if I can help it. It was miserable. I don't miss it for a second. To all of you guys who are out there in the query trenches right now, it does get better. I'm here for you. Stay strong. And for all of my writers that are, out of the trenches, thank God you made it. Way to go. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys in the next one.